You're listening to Witch Wednesdays, a semi-weekly podcast source for all things witchcraft in the modern world. Join your host, Steph, on Wednesday mornings to chat about seasons, Sabbats, and all new witchcraft topics to help you make your life more magical. Welcome back to Witch Wednesdays. I'm Steph, and you are listening to episode 224, where we are going to talk about the magic of June. We are about to head into June 2024, at the end of May right now, and I have been doing these monthly magic podcast episodes this year just to give you an idea of what is coming up in the month, what the moon is doing, what's going on with astrology, some holidays that are coming up, and different ways that you can incorporate June and its energy into your witchcraft practice. So that is what we are going to be chatting about today as we head into the 6th month of the year. So at the end of this month, we are marking the halfway point of 2024. So I hope that this first half has been treating you well and that this summer is shaping up to be everything that you want it to be. I know that for some people, the winter months were particularly long, and now we are heading into the warmer weather. It took a while to get here in Chicago, I do admit. Even in the beginning of this month and beginning of May, we had some very cold days. We did not get snow in May. That's not unheard of here. But we did have some very cold days. So it was kind of a wild month, and we are excited here to see what June brings. So June is the month of strength. The name June comes from Juno, the Roman goddess of women, marriage, and childbirth. And she was the wife of the god Jupiter. In Greek mythology, her counterpart would be Hera, that you might be more familiar with. They are very, very similar. It was Roman mythology was based off of the Greeks, so a lot of it is more similar than other religions. So that's why I usually give the Greek counterpart, and more people seem to be familiar with the Greek mythology rather than the Romans. But the name does come from the Romans. June, of course, brings us to the longest day of the year, the solstice, and it marks the halfway point of the sun's cycle through the seasons. So not only are we getting to the halfway point at the end of the month for the year of 2024, but a few days before that, we are also going to hit the halfway point of the sun's cycle. The universal month number for June is the number 5. And again, I went over that in January's episode of adding that up, where you add up the numbers of the month plus the year to get what the universal month number is. So June is a 5, and 5 is a social number. That is a number that brings changes and modifications, and some of those could be very beneficial changes. I have mentioned before that I'm not a fan of change, but sometimes it is a good thing. So that is what this month's energy is bringing. The tarot card for June, another of my least favorites, is Temperance. And that is a time for balance and patience. And it is a time for doing things on purpose rather than impulsively or on a whim. Like I mentioned, the summer solstice this year falls on June 20th, Litha, as the sun enters into Cancer. But it is in Gemini up until then. And Gemini is a mutable air sign of wit and travel and socializing. As far as the moon, the new moon on the 6th is also in Gemini. So there is a good harmony there for new beginnings at the start of this month. On the 14th of June, the second quarter moon is in Virgo. So that brings some practicality to the month. Gemini can be a time of lack of concentration, so Virgo should balance that out a bit. The full moon, which is called the strawberry moon this month, of course, in line with strawberry season, is in Capricorn on the 21st, and that is great grounding energy. And it is a good time to meet with others and to finalize any plans or ideas. So great timing for that at the end of June, especially if you use the summer months like I do to meet up with your friends more that you don't see while you are hibernating during the winter months. So good time for social energy, meeting up with people, and to finalize plans to meet later on in the summer. And then finally, the month will close out with the fourth quarter moon in Aries on the 28th. So that could give a bit of rise to some self-centered behavior at the end of the month. The correspondences associated with June, we have the crystals, which are pearl, chalcedony, and alexandrite. We have the animals, which are the deer, the eagle, and the fox. The flower is the rose. June is generally called the month of blooming roses for obvious reasons. And the deities associated with June are Artemis, Cerridwen, Hermes, and Odin. And as far as what is going on in the month as holidays and the energy, we have some ancient holidays that you could observe or just be aware of at this time of year, not necessarily with a particular date. First up, in ancient Rome, we had Ludi, Piscatorii, or the fishing games. And in ancient Rome, these were the fishing games that were held in June as part of the religious calendar. These games were dedicated to Neptune, the god of the sea, and were intended to ensure a bountiful catch and safe voyages for fishermen. So if you are along the sea, if you are traveling by boat, doing any cruises or anything, this might be a good energy to tap into. We also had the Feast of Epona, and Epona was a Celtic goddess associated with horses, fertility, and agriculture, and her feast day was celebrated in June. And that usually involved offerings of fruits, grains, and flowers in order to honor her and seek her blessings for not only abundant harvests, but also for the well-being of horses and livestock, both of which were so important to that harvest and to ensuring the safety of the community in the winter months. It was also the time of the Feast of Minerva in ancient Rome, the goddess of wisdom, commerce, and the arts. Was thought to be celebrated on June 13th as a part of the Quinquatria, a 5-day festival in Minerva's honor. The festival included games, music, and theatrical performances, as well as sacrifices and rituals dedicated to this goddess. So those are some of the ancient ones that are not necessarily celebrated today, but you absolutely could tap into that energy and observe some of those things if you feel that it would be in line with your witchcraft and your goals for this month. But some that are celebrated still today. First up, on June 10th this year, we have the Duanwu Festival, or Dragon Boat Festival. That originated in ancient China, and it is celebrated on the 5th day of the 5th month of the Chinese lunar calendar. So in our Gregorian calendar, that usually falls in June, but sometimes late May. And like I said, this month it is on June 10th. And this festival commemorates the death of the poet and statesman Qu Yuan and involves dragon boat races, the eating of sticky rice dumplings, and other traditions that were thought to ward off evil spirits and to promote health and prosperity. On June 16th, we then have Father's Day. Father's Day is a holiday that's celebrated in many countries around the world, typically observed on the third Sunday of June, but it can change dates depending on what country you are in. So here in the States, it is June 16th this year. It's a day dedicated to honoring fathers, father figures, so grandfathers, stepfathers, foster fathers, all types of dads, and just celebrating their contribution to their children, lives of their families. The origins of Father's Day can be traced back to the early 20th century here in the United States. There were earlier attempts to establish a day to honor fathers, but the modern day Father's Day that we recognize is credited to Sonora Smart Dodd. She was inspired by the newly established Mother's Day, which we talked about last month, and wanted to create a similar holiday to honor fathers. And her own father, William Jackson Smart, was a Civil War veteran and a single father who raised 6 children on his own after his wife died in childbirth. And Sonora wanted to show appreciation for her father's love and sacrifices, so she campaigned for the establishment of Father's Day as a national holiday. In 1910, the first Father's Day was celebrated in Spokane, Washington. And in addition to recognizing, your own father, individual fathers, it's also a time to recognize and support the importance of, fatherhood and positive paternal role models in society in general. It's a great time to reflect on that paternal love and guidance. So if you don't have a father figure to celebrate, that is still something that you can incorporate into your witchcraft. If you work with deities, you might have some masculine father figure type deities in your practice, and you could just observe the masculine energy in general. And as with Mother's Day, there's a whole variety of ways to be a father, so it's a great time to celebrate all of those. It's not, just the most traditional sense of the word. So many options out there to celebrate and observe the day. And like I said, if you have, issues, same with Mother's Day, you have some trauma there surrounding those particular parental figures in your life, it does not have to be a day of shadow work and reflecting on that. You could instead pick some other type of father figure or some other sort of masculine energy to work with on this day to observe the energy that's surrounding Father's Day, even if your own father figure is a little bit traumatic. I know that comes up a lot in relation to these holidays, Mother's Day, Father's Day, and that's very valid to have that parental trauma in your history, but not something that you need to work through on those particular days if you're not feeling like it. And towards the end of the month, of course, we have Litha, the summer solstice, midsummer, that is on June 20th. As always, I have an ebook on Litha. There was one last year, and there will be a new one coming this year. Those are available exclusively over on Patreon. So if you want to go sign up, that is always linked on Instagram and over on the website. And lots of Litha information over there. Been talking about Litha for years over on Patreon. So if you need ideas of how to celebrate the different correspondences, history, recipes, tarot spreads, journal ideas, all of those things are included in the ebooks, and they are different each year. So I have a whole history of things for you to learn about and to celebrate in relation to Litha if you're interested in that. But just the overview here today, Litha is a time to celebrate the peak of the sun's power and the longest day of the year. It's a time of abundance, growth, vitality in nature, and traditionally seen as a time when the sun god is at the height of power. So common to honor any gods and goddesses associated with the sun, fertility, and nature at this time. The name Litha is derived from Old English and comes from the Anglo-Saxon word for midsummer. It has a lot of roots in ancient agricultural and solstice celebration. So the Celtic festival of midsummer being the main one, which honored the fertility of the earth, sun's life-giving energy, and we have a lot of history surrounding this in various different cultures because of the sun's positioning and it making it the longest day of the year. A lot of ancient cultures noticed and observed that in the same way as Yule, which is the shortest day of the year, really noticed what the sun was doing at that time and marked the transitions between the seasons and throughout the year with those two dates in particular. And this one just happens to be the longest. So a great day to celebrate the sunlight, watching the sunrise, watching the sunset, because after that, we do start moving again into the shorter days. The modern celebrations of Litha, it's usually rituals, feasting, bonfires, and outdoor activities. This is one of those where it's about groups. A lot of people gather in groups and celebrate. You definitely can do that individually. Then that's a lot of what my ebooks are focused on, because I know a lot of us are solo practitioners and it's a little bit harder to celebrate with bigger groups like that. So if that's you, I have lots more ideas for you. But whether you're doing it individually, in groups, it's about honoring the sun, connecting with nature, all about the abundance of the season. So there's a lot of candles, bonfires, making offerings to gods or spirits, dancing, singing, and a lot of divination at this time as well. It's a great time for reflection on this idea of light versus dark and the shortest night of the year. So appreciating the light and the warmth, but also acknowledging that from this point on, the days are going to start getting shorter as the wheel of the year is turning towards this darker half of the year. But overall, a joyous summer celebration and power of the sun. So all of June really mimics Litha. So these are things that you can incorporate into your spells and rituals all month long. It does not have to only be on the 20th. If you want to particularly observe the sun cycle of that day, yes, that is the day that the sun is going to be doing its thing. So that is the day to get out there and observe it. But as far as the themes, it really runs throughout the entire month. So don't feel like you have to be tied to having your particular celebrations on the 20th because that is on a Thursday. Some people would prefer to celebrate on the weekend in order to, fully enjoy and really plan everything that they want to. So don't feel like you're tied to that particular day. You can do that throughout the entire month of June. It has all of the themes of nature, flowers, fruit, honey, sun, just being outside. Great time to try herbalism or to start a fae connection. So if you thought about working with fairies are very active at this time of year. Love the Litha celebrations because they're usually drawn by music, dancing, laughing, sound, the feasting. So they're much more active and you might see them around or experience their presence. So if you were thinking about establishing some sort of connection with working with the fairies or honoring the fairies, also a great time to do that. And like I said, a great time for divination, just like Yule, when we have the sun moving through its cycles, then it's a great time to sort of figure out what is coming for the next cycle and tapping into that divination energy. So doing a tarot spread or something like that to see what might be coming for this second half of the year, leading up to, again, that sun cycle in Yule. That is everything that I have to share about June magic and heading in to this second half of the year. I hope you have a very lovely June. It is also, as a monthly overview, Pride Month. So happy Pride Month to those of you who are celebrating it. I don't always go over all of the, what the month is, but Pride happens to be a big one for witches because there is a lot of overlap between the queer community and the witchcraft community. And I think that is because of the restrictions that a lot of religions have placed on witchcraft, paganism, along with sexuality, gender expression. All of those things have been sort of limited by the same people, and those people that are not finding their place in religious communities often do find a place in witchcraft and pagan communities. So there just always happens to be a lot of overlap in that area. So happy Pride Month to those of you who are celebrating. And if you are, I'm so glad that you have found your place in the witchcraft community and being part of Witch Wednesdays. So thanks for being here, and I hope you enjoy your month of celebrating. That is everything that I have to share about June magic. If you have any other dates that you will be celebrating, any other magic that you would like to chat about, do let me know in the comments. That's everything that I have for this week. I will see you all next week.
Need even more witchcraft in your life? Subscribe to Witch Wednesdays on Patreon and YouTube for all types of exclusive bonus content like spells, recipes, book reviews, and more, or even order personalized tarot readings and spells. Be sure to follow on Instagram at Witch Wednesdays Podcast, and you can find all these links and more at witchwednesdays.com. Come on, baby.